Well, as you know, the rumors have been swirling around the Capitol last night and this morning what the legislature's intentions are, and I guess we asked if they wanted to have the meeting we scheduled for this afternoon, 1:15, to receive their counteroffers on the four bills that we proposed our reductions of totaling $74 million. And they indicated they did. So I guess a little unclear right now what path they're going to pursue. We talked about negotiating these bills as conference reports without the coming to the floor for votes, and that is my understanding, has been my understanding of the way we agreed we were going to proceed, and we took the first step yesterday in a very sincere, genuine way. Again, we offered $74 million reductions from my original budget, and so today we understood they were going to come back and make their counter offers. If we continue on that track, then we will continue to negotiate, and if they decide to pull out of those negotiations and start voting bills on the floor, then that's another matter. But at this point, we're negotiating. We'll continue to negotiate as long as we have somebody to negotiate with.
Let me just say that I want to, in the back of the room, we have some teachers from Minnesota, from really all over the place. They brought today hundreds of letters from teachers around the state reminding us of how important it is that we do, that we strongly support public schools in Minnesota. It's a good reminder as we kind of go back and forth with this negotiating in the Capitol that what we end up deciding here is going to have a significant impact on students and school districts all over the state.
I don't have much to add.
Well, I think if the Republicans spent half as much time trying to find common ground as they spend trying to set up who's to blame if things fall apart, we would have 4 budget bills done by the end of the day today. The governor is appropriately focused on getting the state budget done so that we can continue to fund government. And the last 12 hours seem to be an elaborate amount of work to distract from the fact if they can't get counteroffers ready for 1:15 today. Hopefully, they will have counteroffers at 1:15 today, and we'll continue to negotiate.
Well, I'm going to take the bait. You know, I think the question to ask them is, are they going to pursue the strategy that they talked about the day before session started? There was an event the day before session where they told a group of people assembled that their intent was to set very early committee deadlines, send bills to the governor destined for a veto, and then leave themselves enough time to negotiate the final bills. They announced that the day before the session convened, and I guess if that's where we are, then they ought to execute their strategy so that we don't run out of time here with 2 weeks left. If not, then they ought to come with a counter to the 4 bills that the governor made a proposal on yesterday and continue to work in earnest on those bills and on the other ones.
Questions?
Governor, if they choose to proceed and bring these bills, the conference reports to the floor without an agreement with you for votes, what kind of signal does that send?
Sends a signal to me that they're pulling out of our negotiations, which are intended to avoid the necessity for the bills to go to the floor and then come to me and be vetoed and then go back to right where we are right now today with the differences we have. So, I mean, if that says to me they've reversed course and they're, you know, they don't want to negotiate, they pull out of the negotiations at this point and they want to follow this other tactic.
Governor, the Speaker of the House and the Majority Leader are indicating that, in their belief, you are slow-walking this. You're not available for negotiations except during the day. You're not available tonight. In their view, what they said this morning is that they can't wait any longer, and they'll start passing these bills out as early as this afternoon.
They keep attributing to me the things that they think I'm doing. I don't attribute to them. I just take what they actually do. I said I've got a commitment tonight, and tomorrow night and Friday I'm in St. Cloud for the fishing opener, and Saturday for fishing opener. And you know, I laid out the time parameters. Yesterday we met for half an hour, 20 minutes. I mean, we have 1:15 today, we can go right until 6:15. We, you know, again, as Representative Hortman said, if we just focus on the budget matters, we can get these bills resolved in at least 2 afternoons. So, you know, I mean, it's just about their setting up this blame game, and, you know, I don't think more time is our problem.
Governor,
For any of these 10 bills as you know them now, if they pass them off the floor, would you sign them or would you veto them all because they're not negotiated?
Well, the way they closed up the conference reports, again, in the dead of night or early this morning with no forewarning, the way they stand the last time I've seen them, I'd veto them all.
Governor, in the Public Safety Conference Committee just a few moments ago, they inserted, without any previous discussion, a rulemaking ban that reflects the language from the Real ID bill that was taken out of the Senate bill. Chair Cornish says that's not unusual. He says that in previous discussions, you've never threatened to veto that, but Ron Latt says that is veto bait, just one more piece of veto bait in that bill. What is your response to that?
I'm sorry, I'm not clear what you're talking
They
about.
inserted Real ID language. They inserted a rulemaking ban into the bill with no previous discussion whatsoever in that committee.
I'd have to look at it and see. We have a rulemaking ban now. I mean, all this stuff they're contriving about the Real ID is pandering to their political base. There's no need. If their issue is about licenses for undocumented immigrants, I've been very clear publicly for the last 3 years or so. And I've told activist groups who want me to proceed, is that we don't have that authority. In an existing statute, Department of Public Safety Commissioner cannot proceed on any rulemaking without legislative approval. So why they have to keep, inserting this in is got to be just for political gain, because it certainly isn't necessary from a statutory standpoint. I don't know if you want to add anything for that.
Governor, speaking of politics, how about in the arc of all this? You've been through this many times. Is this the usual breakdown before the breakthrough?
Well, it's taken different forms. Whether it's a breakdown or not, we'll see this afternoon. I mean, we'll see if they are willing to continue this path to negotiate based on, their position and our position, or whether they're going to, start firing Scud missiles by sending us bills that they know I'm going to veto. I've seen both approaches, and we'll see what tactic they decide to employ.
The move by the Republicans to close out the budget bills, does that represent a turning point in negotiations here? Does it change the tenor at all?
Well, the fact that they closed them all up certainly, changes the tenor. But again, we're here to continue to negotiate. We'll be there at 1:15 to continue to negotiate. And, we'll see what their counter offers are and see where we go from there. But, certainly all the flurry of activity the last 12 hours and without any discussion with us and not any forewarning, just as closing up all these conference reports preparatory to sending to the floor for votes. I mean, that's certainly changes the tenor for sure.
If they pass start passing these bills off the floor, will you keep talking and negotiating while it's happening, or does that interrupt those negotiations from your end?
They're going to start sending bills. We don't have anything to talk about until they send all the bills. I veto them. Then we can start talking again. But that's their decision to pull out of the process that we've agreed to, which is we're going to negotiate these bills before they're voted upon. So that's really on their shoulders.
Governor, in answer to Mary's question, you used the word tactic. Does this seem more like a tactic than anything substantive on the budget?
Well, these bills contain, very significant differences on budget, and they contain a lot of policy. 609 provisions have said again and again, I mean, we'll be here until next January if we try to negotiate 609 policy provisions. So, certainly they shifted from what we understood we were doing when we left yesterday afternoon with all this activity. Now, they said that they are not at this point bringing the bills to the floor for a vote. So you have to ask them what their strategy is or what their tactics are. All I know is what I see happening.
I know there's still 13 days left, but this all looks very familiar. And is it increasingly likely there's going to be a special session to maximize the pressure? You yourself have said maximum pressure is what's required to get people to move. Is that what this is likely to come to at this point? The differences seem so wide.
Well, the pressure should be to end on May 22nd. And traditionally, that's always been the pressure. You know, that's the end line. That's their responsibility at the end of, by May 22nd, is to send me bills that I can sign. That's their responsibility as a legislature. They've had 4.5 months already. So if they want to meet that responsibility, we're on the right track to try to do that, which is to negotiate now. We still have a little less than 2 weeks to go. But if they're going to take this other approach, then it seems to me that they're indicating that they're taking a much more confrontational approach, which is not conducive to getting a resolution.
You made your 4 counteroffers yesterday, and again with public safety, they didn't acknowledge your counteroffer. They didn't consider your counteroffer. I'm guessing that's not how you had hoped it would go. Is that upsetting to you that they just went ahead without even acknowledging that you had made a counteroffer?
I understood or expected that they were going to take the offers, and we hadn't shared them ahead of time, and then they were going to take them and use them as a basis to make a counteroffer this afternoon. So I know I wasn't surprised by that.
What are the odds that you and the speaker will be in different boats at the fishing open?
We're going to be in the same boat along with Senator Gazelka and his daughter. We're going to rely on Lydia Gazelka to be the peacemaker among us.
Question for the minority leaders, and I apologize for arriving late, so maybe you already addressed this. Are your caucus members being courted for possible override votes?
No.
It's not going to happen in the Senate. And I don't know if anybody have been asked either.
Are all the senators going to be present, Senator Bakk, for these votes coming up? Do you know of any absences that could throw a monkey wrench in getting all these budget bills to the governor?
Well, they've got 34 votes. It's their job to run the Senate. I'm assuming they won't take bills up unless they have 34.
Is there enough time, if they go ahead and send all the bills to you and it gets vetoed, is there enough time to actually complete the work? Like, how far does that push you back?
Well, I mean, it depends on how long it takes them to, debate these bills on the House and Senate floors and pass them, send them to me, the reviser, to finalize it. Then when I get it, I'll certainly respond quickly, but I don't know how long that process will take. Again, I just ballparking a good week, especially with, the fishing opener and like Mother's Day over the weekend. So, the way I view it, we'll come back next Monday in the same spot we're in now, with the same differences that we have today. So, in my mind, it would be a week consumed with that tactic.
Governor, is it more difficult to negotiate a budget when there's a big surplus or a big deficit? It seems like it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. They're both difficult. I mean, each has, again, we each have very, very different views what's best for Minnesota. And they were elected to represent their views. I was elected to represent mine, Senator Bakk, and 32 others, very close majority, very close to a majority in the Senate, and Representative Hortman in the House. So, I mean, Minnesotans should expect that we're going to have these very significant differences. The question is how are we going to resolve them?
Negotiations even begun on the big three, the tax bill, the human services bill, and the education bill, or are you guys just focused on those 4 that don't seem to take up a lot of the budget to begin with?
Well, we started with those 4. We agreed last week that we would make an offer yesterday, written offer of those 4. You're right, they're less complicated than some of the others. We started with those for that reason, thinking if we could resolve those, we'd, off to a good start. But, we'll certainly be prepared, if either later today or tomorrow, to present offers on E12 and Health and Human Services and state governments and environment, which are the other 4 most significant outstanding bills, and we'll be ready to proceed on those.
Governor, and minority leaders as well, when this all went down last night, did you get any kind of notification or heads up that this was happening, any courtesy calls, or did you just find out as your members were called and as you saw reports and announcements?
I received nothing. Senator Gazelka called me at 7 this morning, began a conversation. The Lieutenant Governor spoke with or met with Senator Gazelka yesterday afternoon, but did you get any indication this was their intent?
No.
So this came as a complete surprise. And we how many texts did we have last night? About 30.
How did you find out?
texts. They find out by Twitter. I don't tweet, so then they tell me what's on Twitter, and they text me that.
And leaders address how they were informed this was going down last night?
Well, the Republicans in the Senate caucus, they announced a caucus when we adjourned yesterday. And not too long afterwards, I had, I believe, 3 of my conferees, 3 different committees, call or text me and say, well, we got a call from the conference committee chair and they want us to sign a conference committee report. So that they had reached out to Democrats on the conference committee requesting them to sign a report. I actually don't know if any of them signed them. I didn't advise them either way. I think that's their decision. They're the conferee on the bill. And, but clearly, I believe they've all been closed up, with or without any Democratic signatures.
And will any Democrats vote for any of the budget bills in the Senate?
Don't know. I mean, they voted for some going out into conference. I think, that's up to the individuals that were on the conference committee report, I think, to present the bill to the caucus, and caucus members will make their own decision.
And have you been given any guidance on when these bills may come up?
No, I have not, and I actually believe it's just a sideshow. I mean, the real negotiations are going to happen with the governor involved. And if they don't happen with the governor involved, then the session's going to collapse. And it really is up to them if they want to participate in this sideshow or they want to have meaningful conversations with the governor.
Well, and the conversations are with the 4 of us involved.
On the House side, they did tell us the order that they intended to take up the conference committee reports. So I would understand that to mean that they intend to take up the conference committee reports, but it could just be the order if they decide to take them up. We've been getting mixed signals from them about whether or not we are certainly taking up the conference committee reports or not. I was surprised at their press conference that they seem to be backing away from the concept of taking them up.
I don't want to turn to the since a lot of this is about the 2018 election, a collapse, to use Senator Bakk's word, who does that harm the most?
It harms everybody because the people in Minnesota expect us to get our work done, despite our differences. Expect us to get it done by May 22nd. So, everybody suffers the consequences of failing to do that.
Maybe they're following the lead of their president. The president recently said the country needs a good shutdown, I think he said. So maybe they're following his lead. I don't know.
There's your pundit for the day.
Pundits usually work better in front of the microphone, though.
I'm meeting with the Minneapolis delegation shortly. To be continued. Okay, thank you.